Brian Carlton on Triple M. Moon Man.
Thursday, the 26th of August. Hope you're good. Now, the COVID story, again, let me deal with that very quickly today. There is a couple of new narratives starting to emerge, which are good because we started talking about them being a good idea to talk about a year ago. So the idea that they're now being picked up by officialdom is good. The first is the idea that we need stories. We need stories from people who are suffering from COVID. This is largely to overcome the 20-odd% of Australians, roughly, who are saying they are still hesitant to get the vaccine. Now, when you think about the numbers that are being projected around there, we need to get to 80%, as you just heard in the news there, 80% before we consider any kind of reduction in the lockdown on borders here in Tassie, for example. Here's the problem, though. 20% of people are just not going to get vaccinated. Why? Because they don't think COVID's serious enough. So we need stories from people who are suffering from the disease to tell us what it's like. And we need vision of them lying in bed in distress. I know it's horrible. But at the moment, the narrative out there in the internet amongst the conspiracy theorists is that the vaccine is worse than the disease. And it's not. It just isn't by any stretch of the imagination. So that's one thing. Kicking this off yesterday was a respiratory specialist by the name of Lucy Morgan, who works in Western Sydney. And she was at the New South Wales daily conference yesterday, and was it 919 positives? So, and she's saying, look, this is a really, really nasty disease. When it gets you, it's bloody awful. And you might have it for some time. The long COVID thing is apparently affecting about 30% of patients. So 30% of people who get COVID have some kind of long symptom. So stories of people who are ill are a pretty good, I'm just trying to think of exactly the right word here, inspiration to go and get vaccinated if you're hesitating. The other one that I am glad has finally been mentioned, and it's a word that hasn't been used too much during this whole 18-month-odd pandemic period, is hope. Hope. And the word was used a couple of times yesterday in a breakfast TV interview by the Treasurer, Josh Frydenberg, and it had a lot of cut-through. He said, we've got to start giving Australians some hope. The pressure cooker is absolutely on. People are feeling this now. They're really feeling it, mentally feeling it. It's stressing people. They're getting emotionally fraught. It's affecting judgments. And the social and what you might call economic impacts of the pandemic need to be taken into consideration alongside the health impacts, which is why I've been saying the advice that the pollies are getting on a daily basis is just COVID advice. It's not health advice. The message from the Treasurer yesterday was we will start factoring other things in. We've got to start giving Aussies some hope, and God knows that was overdue.
The Spoon Man, Brian Carlton on Triple M.
All righty, 12 after 6. Trevor's called in from Sorell. Good morning, Trev. How are you going?
Good, mate. Yourself?
Yeah, sorry to keep you there for a second. I'm glad you hung on. What can I do for you? I'm good, thanks.
Yeah, well, I'm talking about the Sorell bypass.
Mm-hmm.
So they're doing all this work at Midway Point to take out the roundabout.
Yeah.
They've just moved that roundabout to Sorell bypass.
Shh. You're not meant to notice, Trev.
You're just going to create a bottleneck from one part to the other.
Yeah, this is the problem when you don't have a proper comprehensive and cohesive road strategy, which we don't have here. It's one of the things I keep banging on about, Trevor. Same thing on the outlet. You do the outlet, all you're going to do is push the other bottleneck a bit further down the road. Same deal with the Tasman. People understand that. People do get it.
Yeah, but why don't they just put a set of traffic lights there like they did at they're going to at Midway?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question, though. Can we pop that on the list for that'll be a state growth issue, wouldn't it? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We'll pop that on the agenda. Why weren't other things considered? I think the idea with the roundabout is that it should theoretically produce a continuous flow of traffic. But anybody who's used one know that that's not always the case.
Well, you only have to take look at the Mornington roundabout as well.
In what sense? Oh, look, there's if we were to do an audit of roundabouts around the metropolitan area that desperately needs some work, there's a couple that come immediately. Actually, we probably should do that. Let's do a roundup. Let's round up the roundabout posse and get it on the agenda. If there are nightmare roundabouts, I'll mention a couple of them later. Good idea.
The Mornington roundabout is a bad design. It should be traffic lights there.
Okay, all right. Well, let's put that one right at the top of the list, the Mornington roundabout and the all-new one on the Sorell bypass.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, mate, have a good one.
All right, you too, buddy. Thanks for calling in. Drive safe. Trevor at Sorell there, not happy. Yeah, look, there's I need to find out, get the exact roads before I start banging on about them. I know where they are. I've got them in my head. I just need to make sure I've got all the swing roads in and out correct. And they're on both sides of the river. So the rubbish roundabouts, let's get them on the agenda. 133353. It's a good idea, Trev. Appreciate it, mate. Thank you. In excess, Mystify on Triple M. I hope you're good. Trevor from Sorell talking about the Sorell bypass roundabout. We'll put that on the agenda. But yes, we're in heated agreement on the Mornington one. Isn't that a nightmare? That is an accident waiting to happen basically any minute as cars are whizzing off in multiple directions from seemingly opposite lanes. If you use it, you know what I mean. Yeah, absolutely. The Mornington's probably very near the top of my list too. There are a couple. Really quick, John at Midway Point. Hi, mate.
Good, mate. How are you?
Good. What do you got?
The Sorell roundabout, when it's built, is still going to have to give way to every car coming out of Sorell itself. See how give way to the
this is the problem with roundabouts when you've got a significant amount of through traffic heading in one direction. There's no doubt about it. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. But the question is, though, that when you put traffic lights into that mix, you end up with that horrible knock-on effect. It doesn't take a very long stoppage on a busy road to cause a knock-on effect that just produces a tailback of what you might call designer gridlock.
Yep. Why couldn't they put a longer slip lane? Halfway roundabout.
I don't know. What is it? So a longer slip lane would help bring it up to speed.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, maybe.
The problem is then you've got people who don't know how to use slip lanes, who, like the one at Montrose going onto the highway, they pull up there and they pull up right on the corner.
Oh, it's like the one out of the airport too, onto the Tasman, same kind of thing there. Back in the day, you'd get people pulling in there into the 110 zone at about 70 k's. It's like, whoa, hang on.
All stopped in the middle of the pull-off lane. I've seen that quite a few times. I've nearly rear-ended the car there, like they stopped.
And let them in, yeah.
They stop so they can see.
Oh, okay. No.
No comprehension on using a rear vision mirror.
I thought you meant the oncoming traffic was stopping to let them in. Okay.
Well, I've seen that happen before too. But
no, that's a disaster. I mean, the roads are not designed to be used like that. Okay.
No, they're not. If you want to look at a bad roundabout, the one in Glenorchy.
The one, the main Glenorchy roundabout.
King George Fifth Avenue or whatever it is.
Okay, let me have a look on the map. Obviously, I'm not familiar with every single road in the city. Most people aren't. All right, John, leave it with me. We'll have a look. Thanks, mate. Drive safe. Good on you, buddy. John at Midway Point. I must say the fork in the road is a little gnarly at times too for the unfamiliar, and also the Domain roundabout here in the city. It's not so bad now because we haven't had too many interstaters driving around as we would normally expect. The interstaters really struggle with the railway roundabout. It takes them a while, the mainlanders, to get their head around that. Okay, the worst roundabouts around the metropolitan area, they don't have to be massive ones either. They don't have to be huge. They can be smaller suburban ones that are difficult. I've got there's one in Kingston that does my head in every time I have to drive up there. Just for an appointment or two every now and again. I'll tell you what, I'll give you the streets in a minute. If you're familiar with Kingston, hang in there. You're probably guessing which one it is by now. It's that ordinary.
The Spoon Man, Brian Carlton on Triple M.
It's kind of how you feel waiting at some roundabouts, isn't it? Oh, come on. The horrid roundabout that I will mention here by street name, it's not the biggest roundabout, it's not the busiest roundabout, but it is designed to be dangerous. Why? Because it's got a bloody great hedge in the middle of it. You can't see a thing. Corner of Hutchins Street and Church Street in Kingston, just behind the Channel Court Shopping Centre, for those familiar. It is, especially coming up the hill. You cannot see a thing. It's an accident waiting to happen. It's been alleged. Good morning. Welcome to a brand new one, Thursday, the 26th of August. I hope you're well. Give me a call if you'd like to. 133353. spoonman@triplem.com.au is the email. Should you wish any issues on the roads, give me a call. Because as you know, the Department of Police, Fire and Emergency Management are not giving us any information anymore. I'll bang on about that in a minute because it's annoying me. Brennan's called in from Carlton Beach. Good morning, mate. How you going?
Good, mate. How are you this morning?
I'm really well, thank you. What can I do for you?
Oh, I just had a little innocuous roundabout to mention to you.
Okay, and an innocuous roundabout, is there such a thing? Whereabouts is it?
I don't know, I guess maybe not the correct word to use, but it's on Bly Street. As you come out of Rosny past the vet clinic,
Hang on, just
it's a main bus route.
right.
And the way that it's designed, the buses go through it, and there's a gutter that sticks out to the point where, if anyone that's familiar with it or that's listening will be really aware that it's had some severe cosmetic surgery done to it via the bus wheels.
Oh, okay. So it's been nicely
Like,
painted in
yeah.
a sort of rubber finish, yeah? Black rubber finish. Okay.
Oh no, it's half destroyed.
Oh, really?
Like, yeah.
Okay.
And, yeah, not just by buses, but also people that have probably gone through there a little bit quick, and it kind of just catches you out.
Right.
It's a nasty one.
Why are they? If you're going to do something other than a standard roundabout thing with a roundabout, why wouldn't you appropriately sign it? This is sort of what happens. This is where it goes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Like when they put it in, they obviously forgot to mention the fellas that put it in that. Oh, by the way, there's going to be 15-ton buses coming through here.
Yeah, it's just whatever you do with a roundabout to change it from what is a regular roundabout. When people see a roundabout coming up and a roundabout sign, you go, okay, as a roundabout, it's going to work vaguely like this. If it doesn't work vaguely like that, people get very confused very quickly. It's one of the reasons the railway roundabout in the city causes so many dramas, and indeed the Mornington one too, because it is all over the shop. It doesn't work like a normal roundabout does.
Yeah, I've seen some doozy stories at the Mornington roundabout and the railway roundabout. Unfortunately, like when you've got to turn left to go to the aquatic centre, it's a turn left only lane. But I've seen people try and scoot straight ahead. But the problem is that the middle lane has the option of going straight or left, so you end up having a situation where the middle lane is nearly getting run into by the left-hand lane.
Yeah, that's exactly the problem.
I've seen it personally.
Yeah, look, I got stuck in the Mornington roundabout, exactly the same thing, with my mum, who's a local, and she goes, no, stay in the right lane, stay in the right. We're heading south, right? We're heading sort of east towards Orford. And no, don't get in that lane, somebody will hit us. And I'm like, okay, all right, no worries at all. And she was right. She was absolutely right, because it's highly confusing. If you want to go, say, to the city, you do that from the right lane, but there are some people who in the left lane on the approach are heading in the direction I was going in, like more towards the East Coast. And they're sort of crossing paths halfway through the roundabout. It's crazy.
Yeah, during the certain times of the day, I'll avoid the Mornington one like the plague. Like if I'm coming out of Eastlands, Rosny area, to go back home to Carlton Beach, I'll actually go through the Warray and then past the sports centre there over the overpass, then over Fern Tree Gully.
Yeah.
And that'll actually just get you onto the slip lane.
Okay.
So you avoid the whole situation.
Yeah, I'll note to self next time. Appreciate it, matey. Thank you. These are the sorts of things. That's Brennan at Carlton Beach. Always appreciate his call. He's a lovely man. Yeah, look, the roundabouts that sort of don't work like proper roundabouts do cause people dramas, no doubt about that. The other thing I did notice in the media over the past 24 hours or so, the locals still not happy with the upgrade to the Sandfly turn-off on the Huon Highway. Anybody who's across that in detail, happy to talk about it, because it's been ongoing for how long now? How many different designs have there been for that particular intersection? So the Sandfly intersection on the Huon, if you're involved in that in any way by way of urging the government for a rethink, let us know. Again, happy to have the chat. We might follow it up as an issue, but if you want to make an early call, please do so. 133353.
The Spoon Man, Brian Carlton on Triple M.
7.8 right now in the city. It's minus 1.7 on the mountain. Pinnacle Road closed at the Springs, 4.3 in the Derwent Valley and 4.8 in the Huon. Looking at 12 today with just a light shower around. I noticed in the Mercury today, I've just got, what page is it? Page 6. There's a picture of a crashed car, and a picture of a crashed car got my attention. Let me read you the story. See, newspaper. The Tasman, this is a quote, the story is by Kenji Sato. The Tasman Bridge was hit by traffic delays when two cars collided in the middle of the highway during peak rush hour Wednesday morning. That was, check note, yesterday. Two cars crashed in the middle lane, slowing traffic along the bridge to a crawl. Police and tow trucks rushed to the scene and managed to free up the highway within 20 minutes. That's good. Good work. Police spokeswoman said neither drivers were harmed in the crash and the road had been cleared of all traffic. The quote was from the spokeswoman, It's a very minor crash. Called in at 7:55 a.m. No injuries. It was a two-vehicle collision, but it was cleared by 8:12 a.m. End quote. Yeah, okay. They're the sorts of things that the media department, used to send people like me advice about as it happened. Okay, so when there was a hold up on the Tasman Bridge, you would get literally an email would pop up on my screen right next to me here, and I go, okay, traffic problem on the Tasman caused by 2-car accident, should be cleared in a couple of minutes. There will be some tailbacks. Does not happen anymore. Why? Designer gridlock, ladies and gentlemen. There is no congestion in Hobart.
The Spoon Man, Brian Carlton on Triple M.
Green Day song there, warning, live without warning, is exactly right. That's what the government appears to want you to do, live in a world without warning. Tell me, look, if I'm overstating this, I'm happy to back off. But how useful is it to have people like me on the radio? Not just me, every other radio station in Hobart as well gets the same message, or would. Okay, so it's not exclusive to me. But how useful is it to have the radio, which most people listen to at breakfast time, giving you some advance warning that your preferred route into work or wherever you're going, drop the kids at school, whatever, is not happening this morning because of an accident, there's bad traffic or congestion, delays. Is it not useful to you, dear citizen, to have that information courtesy of somebody like me or any of the other radio stations around the place? If it's important, if it's useful to you, I'll keep banging on about it until the government decide to change their mind on it. This is not a Hobart City Council thing, by the way. This is a Department of Police, Fire and Emergency Management issue. And I would have thought given that they've got all the cameras and access to all the information, a quick email outlining exactly what the problem is and why people are going to experience delays, and possibly even suggest an alternate route that might work. Wouldn't that be useful to you? 13353. Nobody else is going to. 11 to 7 now. We'll get you some news at 7 o'clock. Give me a call if you like. 13353. spoonman@triplem.com.au if you'd prefer to email. There is, look, I mentioned this just in passing. Remember yesterday we spoke to Andrew Robinson, the son of Philip Robbo Robinson, as in Wow Robbo, you know the one. The Mercury's now picked up the story and running it front page today, which is a good thing. A good thing, especially on Budget Day, which I'll get to in a second. It's just such a sad story. The man has worked his whole life, run his business. I come from a butchering family, so I get it. There's a huge amount of just effort and energy goes into running any kind of business. For butchers, it's almost a lifestyle rather than a job. Any butcher listening to me knows exactly what I mean by that. It's just sad, and I hope that the perpetrator here can come up with the coin to make sure that Philip Robbo Robinson does not live in poverty for the back end of his life, having worked so hard to ensure that didn't happen. Speaking of awful, the 80-year-old woman involved in that Burnie CBD crash on Tuesday has unfortunately passed away in hospital. The police have sent out a note. Thoughts with woman's family and friends. A report is being prepared for the coroner. She's unnamed at this stage. Any further info? This is about the garbage truck that kind of reversed over. It is a horrible, horrible story. Sadly passed away, and our thoughts to her family. Now, the other note that's come out from the Department of Police, Fire and Emergency Management is this one. Tasmanians must check in at business premises or face fines. I will talk some more about this with the Health Minister, Jeremy Rockcliffe, ahead of the budget and related health issues a little later this morning. Hang in there, don't go away. The requirement to check in at retail venues and taxis and ride shares will be apparently highlighted. There's a bit of a 3-day blitz on, and it starts today. So as you're heading out, wherever you go into a shop or any kind of premises, you must use the QR code, and anybody that runs anything that is visited by people. There's a very long list of affected businesses and services, etc. If you don't have the QR code for people to use to check in, you're going to cop it too. So the police today, as of today, will be hooking up with the environmental health officers, transport inspectors, and WorkSafe inspectors. So it is going to be a blitz. High visibility days of action is what it's called. Raise awareness of the requirement for customers to check in at shops, cafes, taxis, including ride shares and other venues, etc. Okay, now here's the rub. All people aged 16 years and older are required to check in. Anyone who refuses to check in. Now, this is kind of, my understanding is it will work like this, okay, before I get to the fines. If you don't check in and you get tapped on the shoulder, hopefully, well, that'd probably be a breach of social distancing, wouldn't it? You'll be alerted to the fact by one of the inspectors, could be a police officer, could be an environmental health officer, transport inspector, work-safe inspector. Excuse me, Mr. Carlton, you've not signed in here. You've not done the QR code check-in. If I go, oh, God, I'm so sorry, I forgot. Okay, I'll go do it now, and you walk over and do it. No problem. That's my understanding. No problem. If, on the other hand, same scenario, tap on the shoulder, metaphorically, Mr. Carlton, you've not signed, I'm not doing it. Sorry, I'm not doing it. That's when you'll cop the fine. And the fine is $778.50. That's more than a couple of 3 parking tickets in Hobart City Council, isn't it? It's more than a few. The other 3 days of action kick in today in Hobart, tomorrow in Launceston, and Burnie on the 30th. So it's 3 days out, targeting city by city is probably a reasonable way to do it. We're today. Just a heads up, we are today. Thursday, the 26th. The Assistant Police Commissioner, Jonathan Higgins, said we've been taking an educative approach for some time now. People have had time to adapt to the requirement to check in. Anyone who fails to check in and then refuses to do so upon request will face a fine. The days of action are about actively monitoring compliance and increasing awareness. It's not a choice. You don't have a choice in the matter. It is a legal requirement under Section 16 of the Public Health Act. Okay, and if you want to check the relevant legislation, please feel free to do that. The Department of Health Secretary State Health Commander Catherine Morgan-Wicks said, quote, most Tasmanians are committed to keeping Tasmania COVID-free and understand that Check-in Tas is a tool that will support us to identify and follow up with people that we learn may have been exposed to a positive case of COVID-19. So that's the blitz. It's on today. It's almost impossible not to be aware of the QR code check-ins. If you have any questions, I'll have some time in the next half hour to have a yarn with you about them, okay? If you've got any questions on the QR code check-in that will be cracked down on from today, right across the metropolitan area, let us know, 133353. Yes, good morning. Welcome to a brand new one, Thursday, the 26th of August. Anything could go on today? 133353, the number, spoonman@triplem.com.au. A quick email from Helen here. I've been sort of having a bit of a okay, I've been whinging. I've been having a bit of a gripe. The Department of Police, Fire and Emergency Management, that up until, and the timing is interesting, just up to the state election campaign when that kicked in, the very regular emails, when I say very regular, multiple emails a morning, from the aforementioned media department, so police, fire and emergency management, all been sort of blended into one media unit. They used to send us traffic updates. So if like yesterday, there was an accident on the Tasman Bridge at 7:55 at around about 8 o'clock, we'd get a message going, oh, by the way, there's been a 2-car accident on the Tasman this morning, inbound, and it's likely to cause some delays, which indeed it did yesterday. Those emails dried up, and I mean completely dried up, in the lead up to the state election, which is months ago now. Now, I've seen politicians and political parties and governments do some pretty cynical things over the years, but one of the things that the government and all levels of government, not just the state government, local government, all around the Hobart metropolitan area, need to try and convince you, the dear citizen, the drivers of Hobart, that there are no congestion issues in this city that need dealing with. They're just in denial, massive denial, because to accept the issue, to accept that traffic dramas in Hobart are regular, in fact predictable, they would have to do something about it. They'd be forced to actually get a proper traffic plan rolled out, a proper roadwork plan rolled out for Hobart, and it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. So what do you do in the meantime when the pressure's actually on, but you're in denial about it? You don't want the mob to know. So you deny the media the information, real time, that would be conveyed to you, dear listener, on your possible route to work this morning that's not working because there's an accident or some other issue going on. We just don't get that information anymore. It has completely evaporated, and I mean properly evaporated. Now, you would imagine that if one of the staff was sick, maybe they're in ISO for, I don't know, a couple of weeks, perhaps. But the election, as you know, was in May, so the lack of info started in early April, actually. So we're many, many months into what is effectively a congestion information blackout here in Hobart. The only thing that's keeping you up to speed are our traffic reports, which we do separately. Okay, they're something we do, and the reports that come in from you on the telephone. So I posed the question a little earlier. How useful is it to have people like me, people talking on the radio, and not just here at Triple M, but the other stations as well, get all the same information? And I'm not asking for anything proprietary. I'm not asking them to send me information that they're not sending to everyone. I'm asking them to send it to everyone, because ultimately everyone, you, dear citizen driver, benefit. You benefit from the information. So I just pop the question out. Would you like more up-to-date, real-time traffic information coming from the department, again, who've got all the cameras, they see everything, they know what's going on. They're just not communicating it to the to people like me. So I posed the question, would it be useful to have that service back? Helen has come in on email. Given that there are very few alternative routes in and around Hobart, once you're on the road, it's definitely a necessity to know before getting to those alternate route nodes that there is a problem up ahead. That's what I say, it gives you a chance to plan an alternate way. Helen observes, if there's a staffing issue for those who'd normally be given the time. I don't know. Don't know the answer to the question. All I know is that the regular traffic emails we used to get have completely, and I mean utterly, evaporated.
The Spoon Man, Brian Carlton on Triple M.
It's all part of the designer gridlock plan that I keep talking about. You know I keep talking about it. Okay, this is designer gridlock. Hobart City Council does the same thing with parking. I noticed the good folk at North Hobart, the businesses there, still not happy with the council's response to their concerns about the traffic charges and obviously the meter boxes popping up all over the place. Not happy, Jan. They're pushing on with their protest. We'll deal with them. When I say deal with them, we'll have a chat with them next week. But there is a covert plan, okay, running at all levels of government. So there's nobody actually putting their hand up other than me going, hey, this is a problem. This is a problem, because they're all in heated agreement. Nobody wants to tackle the issue. Hobart City Council doesn't want to know about it. The other councils don't want to know about it. The state government doesn't want to know about it. And the federal government doesn't want to know about it either, because ultimately, if there was to be any significant roadwork done here in Hobart, the feds would have to chuck in a bunch of change. And they don't want to do that either. So here we are in this bizarre situation where you, the citizen driver, every morning and every afternoon, and sometimes on the weekends and at weird hours, you find yourself sitting in traffic jams. That is not an accident. Pardon the pun. It is designer gridlock. It is designed that way. They are trying collectively to force you out of your car and onto public transport that simply does not exist. It is an actual plan to do nothing, say nothing, don't acknowledge the problem, and you don't have to do anything about it. In my view, that is doing the citizens of Hobart and surrounds a massive disservice and should be called out.
The Spoon Man, Brian Carlton on Triple M.
Chisel on Triple M, 7:15 now. Shane's called in, South Hobart. Good morning, mate. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Yourself?
Yeah, really well. What can I do for you?
Mate, I was just listening about the governments and that. To have a strong government, you need to have a really strong opposition.
Totally right.
Because
yep.
At the moment, our state government, they can promise the world, they win their elections, and they do what they like. Because there's no opposition. The opposition don't hold them to account. They don't. There's nothing. Rebecca White's team is just pathetic.
They've certainly let the government get away with things that they probably wouldn't have in many other states. I would completely agree with that. A hallmark of the nation at the moment is particularly weak oppositions. When you look around the country, they're in utter disarray. And I look, you bang on the money, Shane. Absolutely right, mate.
Yeah, we had an election here in the state not long ago, and they were going to fix the traffic problems in Hobart. But they're not going to do a thing with it.
Well, Shane, you've missed the part of the memo. They are doing things about it. E-scooters, They'll help solve the traffic problem. The Cross Derwent Ferry is designed to solve the traffic problem. The Northern Rail, light rail that doesn't exist yet, will solve the traffic problem. The fifth lane, park and ride all over the place, right? Park your car, jump on a bus. If you're in Kingston, say you're going to be sorted out there with the extra lane on the outlet. They're still talking about mucking around with Macquarie Street clearways, which might help. But fundamentally, it's you know what I want to say. It's something around the edges. It's just around the edges. That's all they're doing.
That's exactly right. So in actual fact, they're doing nothing really.
Basically, yes.
They're full of hot air.
It's a scene to be doing something while not actually doing anything, and they can come out and make announcements on a regular basis. If you go back and have a look at the original noises about all of these projects, you will see designed to help Hobart's traffic congestion problem, which none of them will, and they all know it.
That's exactly right.
Yeah,
if Rebecca White had any go in her, she'd be secretly sitting back, coming up with ideas of how to fix this traffic issue properly without stupid bloody e-scooters and crap like that.
Look,
and then come the next election, she'd bring her plans forward and really punish the government and catch them off guard and do what she says she's going to do.
Yeah, and hold them to account. The trouble is the Labor Party, even if it wasn't totally, and I mean completely fighting itself at the moment, if it wasn't doing that, they don't want to build roads. They're ideologically opposed to it. The Green part of the Labor Party, and there's a good deal of them, they don't want any of this. They don't want any roadworks or a tunnel network built or any significant roadworks because everybody should get off and ride a bus or something. I mean, that's their mentality. That's the way they think.
Yeah.
How do you change that? I don't know.
What have we done, a full circle going back to the caveman era or what?
No, it's just the information. We live in the information age, and people have found out the good way to progress their agenda is not to talk.
Yeah.
That.
And that's the trouble with society today.
Yeah, couldn't agree more, Shane. Mate, call of the day so far, buddy. The issue is a national one. When you have a look around the country, the Labor opposition in South Australia, absolutely hopeless. The Liberal opposition in Western Australia, absolutely hopeless. The Liberal opposition in Queensland, absolutely hopeless. Labor opposition in New South Wales, completely useless. The Victorian Liberals might as well pack up and go home for all the impact they've been able to have on Daniel Andrews and what he's got up to there. They are properly hopeless, and the Labor Party here are not really the opposition. The Greens are more the opposition here than the Labor Party, if not numerically, then certainly by at least attempting to hold the government to account. Agree with them or disagree with them, not the point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You've hit the nail on the head, mate.
No, Shane, you did, and I appreciate your call, mate. Thank you so much.
No worries, mate.
Good on you. Thanks, Shane in South Hobart. There, Cynical Craig's called in from Tea Tree quickly. Hello, mate. How are you?
Hallelujah and amen. That's exactly on the money, Spoonie.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. The thing about democracy is governments will turn into a dictatorship unless they're held to account by their parliamentary opposition. And that's what we don't have here at the moment in Tassie because, as you know, they're all infighting. We'll talk some more about that later in the show too, by the way.
Yeah, infighting. Yeah. Spoonie, just as a bit of a heads up, I put a post up the other night on our truck pages about the a letter that was sent to an operator in the Brighton area to say there's going to be rest areas put in, and they're across the state at this stage. There was no mention of toilets, and I put a bit of a cynical comment up on our truck pages, like got shot down, chastised like a 2-year-old by one of the members, and said, "Oh, we're going to build toilets, we're going to do this." Well, that's great. The group that's working with the government, great. Keep working, keep happening, but the toilets aren't truck exclusive, which is okay. They're for car and caravans and Joe Civilian, which is okay, and they're going to be put on weigh bridges, which are not okay, because if you're busting for Lou and the NHVR, which is the National Heavy Vehicle Regulator, I have no issues with them, but they are there to pull you up. They're a private company that has to make money to survive and give some of it back to the government to be able to fulfil their duty. Now, if they've set up on the weigh bridge and they're doing vehicle checkings and whatever, and you're busting for Lou, and it's the only rest area around for another 100 Ks or 200 Ks, are you going to get victimised? Is there going to be a left-hand lane you can pull into, sit down for half hour and have your break without being harassed or intimidated or by a... You're not going to pull up to a booze bus to have a rest if you feel tired, are you? You're not going to drive in and park beside one and say, "Mate, I'm just having a spell."
Well, so you're suggesting in order to use the toilet facility, you'd actually have to drive through the check? Drive over the weigh bridge? Or?
I've sent a message to the chair of this organisation, which predominantly is the business owners or managers of business companies, and there's a few privateers. And I don't have a problem with them for work they're doing. Don't have a problem at all with what they're doing. But why have it all behind the scenes? And like you were saying, there's no information coming forward. Why make it all hush hush? And then when it's constructed, it's too late. There's no input. You only get an input from a very basic few.
Yeah, hang on a second. The trucking body inputting into the project, though, the government would consider them the industry representatives or the industry input into the issue, wouldn't they?
I don't know. Ask them.
Okay.
This is the company owners.
Yeah, I understand.
Right. So,
Craig.
Yep.
They're putting in dunnies. How many are there going to be? This is
don't know. No numbers.
All right. Okay.
We just got a generic letter that was sent to a business, and it said rest areas.
All right. Go, point
no
us
mention of dunnies.
All right. Point us Cynical Craig. Send us a screenshot, mate, of your Facebook thing, and we'll.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll do that shortly.
All right, buddy. All right.
All right, mate.
Thanks, mate.
Bye.
Cheers. Cynical Craig from T3 there. Yeah, it's the issue we talked about before the election, remember? The lack of toilet stops for truckies across the state, and there's a little bit of action on it, clearly, but I mean, how hard can it be? I make the point, it's one of those silly things that in my travels when you're allowed to do that back in another life, I actually used a 2,000-year-old Roman toilet. It was still there. If the Romans can do it, surely we can. Yeah, getting some interesting feedback on the traffic issues, which I will get to very shortly. Also, in about 15 minutes, 20 minutes' time, I'll talk with the State Health Minister and Deputy Premier Jeremy Rockliff. Good morning. Welcome to a brand new one. It is Thursday, and I can't believe it's the 26th of August already. Do hope you're well. You've just joined us. I've been ranting about the lack of information that comes through in terms of what you're experiencing on the roads right now. From the Department of Police, Fire and Emergency Management, the email's just gone absolutely off. Thank you to all those who have. I won't mention his name because he used to be a volunteer firefighter, isn't anymore, because of claims the resources once and now that the department's been merged, so the Department of Police, Fire and Emergency Management, possibly better not to have them necessarily in the same department, if you, at least in terms of administration. He says the police department's absorbed a great deal of budget and he won't go back. Won't go back to being a volunteer firey. Okay. Again, won't mention name. Shares my frustration, though, with the government and its commitment to burying their heads in the sand and taking the Officer Brady approach like on South Park. Yeah. Move along, people. Nothing to see here. Indeed. Oh, there were just so many. Mark, he says, typical, isn't it? Don't tell the public anything. Nothing to see here approach from the authorities. This is it's designed this way. This is not an accident, I promise you. He says, the way that I, Spoonman, me, Brian, can't do what you do best as a shock jock is that and tell everyone listening to your show that there are severe traffic problems in Hobart. This is the problem, okay? This is the problem. If they don't communicate the issue, only the people who are involved in it directly. So if you're sitting now 5 or 6 or 10 cars behind a 2-car crash somewhere and you know about it, obviously, you know you're stuck in the traffic, you don't necessarily know what the cause is, but nobody else does. Nobody else on any of the other roads that aren't directly affected by it have a clue. It's just helpful to allow you to plan your travel. That's all. If they wanted to ease Hobart's traffic congestion problem, surely a good way to do that is not force more cars into the traffic problem because of a lack of useful information. Mark adds, keep doing what you do. A lot of support out there. Well, you guys are driving in it. I mean, you're the victims of this in a very real sense. I'm not. I just want to be able to communicate the correct information to you. It shouldn't be as difficult as it is. Okay, in a few minutes' time, we'll have a chat with finally, after many months now, the Health Minister and Deputy Premier, Jeremy Rockliff. There's a whole heap of issues we need to get across on this budget day. A couple of things will relate to that, but a lot of the things I want to talk to him about are issues that have popped up on the program that you've asked me questions about. So we'll get in there and ask them. Pat a figure on Triple M out of Brisneyland. 16 to 8 now. We'll take a break. When we come back, we should have lined up the Deputy Premier and Health Minister, Jeremy Rockliff. Budget day today, obviously. We'll get a bit of a budget spruik with the Premier tomorrow. but there's a bunch of health-related questions that I need to get to the Deputy Premier and the Health Minister, and we'll do that right after this. 13 to 8 on this little overcast Thursday morning. I hope you're well. Give me a call if you'd like to. 133353 is the number. Been hoping to have this chat for a while now. Glad to do it today. Jeremy Rockcliffe, the Deputy Premier and Health Minister, joins me. Minister, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Brian. Good morning to listeners, and it's good to speak to you again.
Appreciate your time today. A couple of things quickly. Can we keep COVID out of Tasmania?
Well, we're doing the best we can. It'll be difficult, and the Premier has certainly indicated that at some point in time it's likely that COVID will enter our shores again, our Tasmanian boundaries, and we don't want it. The Delta strain, of course, is wreaking havoc across other states, particularly New South Wales, as we see daily cases up and above 800. And so it'll be challenging, but we're doing the best we can. And that's why Delta Shield is so important in terms of stronger border controls, tracking and tracing, vaccination, of course. And we recognise that when borders are closed, Brian, our businesses do it tough, and that's why we need to support our businesses through this time.
The 80% vaccination limit or target that I guess the feds are looking at, 2 stages, 70% and 80%. You said even once we get to 80%, you'd be reluctant to completely open up. At what point would you?
Well, that's a good question, and it's a question of where, in fact, Tasmania is leading some work at the moment with Victoria and New South Wales for National Cabinet around lifting up restrictions and what point and what that would look like when we get to that vaccination rate. So we're leading some work with respect to that. I'm concerned about our Tasmania's vulnerable population. We've got an older population, more vulnerable people in that sense, and COVID and particularly the Delta strain could be worse for many Tasmanians given our demographics, and so we need to be cautious around this. And so while we need to work with the Commonwealth, of course, and we'll also take our own public health advice and see what exactly the right time is. But going back to complete normality, as November 2019, for example, I think is a fair way off, Brian, but easing restrictions to give more freedoms to people, of course, can only be really achieved when we get those vaccination rates up. And I can only implore all Tasmanians to book a vaccination, get the jab, keep themselves safe, their loved ones, their friends, and of course the rest of the community. And the sooner we get those vaccination rates up, the sooner we can go back to some normality, Brian.
There's a mixed message embedded in what you've just said there, Minister, with respect. One is get vaccinated, get to 80%, and we'll be able to lose some of the restrictions. But that's not going to happen. How does the vaccination become a carrot then for the opening up if it's not going to be the carrot for opening up?
Well, we didn't say it wouldn't happen. Of course, we're very mindful, and of course, the Doherty modelling suggests that 70 to 80% mark is at a point where we can look at easing restrictions.
But we will have to accept that there will be positive cases of coronavirus in the state, though, won't we, Minister? Surely.
Well, there's likely to be positive cases, and it's how we manage that. And of course, we're very mindful of the fact, and we've got a plan in place that the Premier released just last week in terms of what we would do if COVID hit our shores again. And it's likely that it might at some point in time. We don't want it to. We're doing all we can to keep it out. But of course, as we open up, it's likely to be there. So these short, sharp lockdowns, as we've outlined last week, the way to go, so we can get on the top of a Delta strain as soon as possible, and ensure that we don't have any people dying as a result of COVID.
So let's be very clear here. Once we get to the 80% vaccination mark, we may still be pursuing a zero COVID strategy.
Well, I'll be, of course, this is a national discussion with the Premier and National Cabinet.
Well, then you've just indicated, though, with respect, though, Minister, you've just said, yes, you'll partake in that process, but you're not necessarily going to follow the guidances from the federal government. You'll make your own decisions. So please.
Well,
explain.
With respect, we have made our own decisions before. We were the first state to close our borders, and that was seen as the right thing to do. Yes, we'll be guided by national conversations, of course, but we'll also take our own public health advice, and we'll also do whatever we can to protect the health and safety of Tasmanians. Now, and that's, what we've always done, and we'll continue that strategy. I and you and all your listeners, I'm sure, would like to get back to some normality where we don't have to enforce so many restrictions with respect to this matter. But the pathway to that, of course, is firstly to get vaccinated, and we're leading the nation when it comes to that, with 57% of Tasmanians having had their first dose and around 37 fully vaccinated. So we're doing well, but we have some way to go.
Minister, what do you say to those who are watching the efforts that the government is going to facilitate AFL matches here? To those who have been prevented from coming into the state to attend, say, the funeral of a loved one. I know one specific case of a father who'd passed away, Tasmanian, who's lived on the mainland for a long time, wanted to come down and farewell her father. She's fully vaccinated, 2 jabs, has had multiple, in fact, is tested every 3 days, negative, was denied permission. How do you have a conversation with that person about why it's not okay for them to cross border to get into Tassie to attend a funeral, but it's okay for AFL players? How do you do that?
Well, firstly, I've had conversations over the course of the last 12 months, particularly with respect to the lockdown of the Northwest Coast, which is the patch that I'm from, around these limitations around funerals and the like, and they're very challenging and heartbreaking conversations, Brian. So I acknowledge the hurt and, of course, the sadness of losing a loved one in these circumstances. Look, the AFL, of course, we've got 2 finals in Tasmania that obviously AFL have worked very hard and been very diligent in ensuring that their players are in that bubble, if you like, that COVID-free bubble. And with the right procedures and protocols in place, these events can happen. Now, that's an opportunity for Tasmanians to experience AFL content.
Oh, no, I understand that, but we're having a conversation more broadly about what happens when we have everybody, or 80% of the population, fully vaccinated. That means 2 jabs and presumably not carrying the virus. And yet at the same time, people who meet those criteria right now are being denied entry into the state for, on what, anti-compassionate reasons. It's very cruel. It's very cruel.
Well, it's heartbreaking. I accept that.
And it contradicts the broader message that we're trying to put out there, that once we get a high vax rate, we can open up and do these things. We've got people who meet those criteria now, and they're being routinely denied.
Yeah, I don't believe it contradicts the message more broadly, because the vaccination message nationally is that 70 to 80% mark nationally, but also 70 to 80% of each state in terms of that Doherty modelling criteria.
No, I understand. I'm talking about an individual here who has met the criteria that's been set as for an individual, 2 jabs, fully vaccinated, multiple tests, negative, and still denied. At what point? At what point do we say, okay, those people who meet that set of criteria must be allowed in for compassionate reasons? There's not going to be that many of them, but can't we facilitate it?
And it's all about measuring the risk, and I'm not sure of the exact personal circumstances of the person and where they may be coming from. But
coming from a non-hotspot in Sydney metropolitan area, not one of the Category 1 high-risk areas.
But still a risk nonetheless, I would suggest. I'm not exactly sure of the circumstances, and I'm happy for that person to contact me.
Well, no, it's too late now, because they've given up with the government, and they're prepared to sell the house that they were going to keep here and move permanently the entire family out of the state, largely as a result. Premier, I've got a bunch of Deputy Premier, I've got a bunch of other questions I want to get to here quickly. Do we have the capacity in our hospital systems to handle a Delta outbreak, and I mean a serious one?
Well, yes, we do. Now, obviously, our hospitals are, experiencing increased demand at the moment, and we're investing more to ensure that we alleviate the pressures on our hospital system. But in terms of preparedness and readiness, and of course, a statewide plan to ensure that we are ready. Yes, we are. We've got sufficient supplies of PPE. We've got sufficient supplies of ventilators, which is obviously extremely important. We've got some 270 ventilators on standby. We've got access to a further 100 when it comes to a partnership with the Commonwealth, the federal government. And so in terms of being able to look after and support people when it comes to COVID, and particularly, obviously, we're concerned about the Delta strain. And again, the best protection, notwithstanding the need and the importance of resources, both people and equipment in our hospitals, to support people should they contact COVID. The best defence against that, of course, is vaccination.
Okay, but it still doesn't allow people to enter the state when they're fully vaccinated. Okay, I think I understand the messaging, but I'll tell you what, there's a lot of people out there who necessarily won't. Will you shut down the Royal Hobart? Will you drop it into restriction mode at the event of a Delta outbreak here? And the supplementary question to that is, what then happens to the Pfizer hub, vaccination hub, operating out of the hospital?
Well, of course, during a lockdown related to any sort of any outbreak, Brian, anyone in isolation and quarantined people would be, of course, subject to the same rules. Now, it all depends on that risk level. And during an outbreak or a lockdown, of course, we would assess the risks of our hospitals and ensure that there are other areas of which, for instance, in terms of clinics for vaccinations and the like.
So, Minister, you would consider moving it out of the hospital prior to the emergence of a Delta outbreak, because you simply cannot have citizens wandering in and out of the hospital willy-nilly getting vaccinated by the hundreds a day.
We cannot, but we need to assess those risks, and there'll be, a lot of work that's been done.
The point I'm trying to make here is, as soon as we get a Delta outbreak, you'll shut the hospital and the vax program closes down as well.
Well, no, we'll continue the clinics, of course. That's possible. Now, the risk needs to be assessed, and of course, have plans to have clinics in other venues. For example, City Hall, the Albert Hall in Launceston, Burnie Civic Centre, of course, in the Northwest Coast. So there can be contingencies in place so people can still receive their vaccinations, which is important. And that's what we need to do, ensure that we continue to get and provide the opportunity for people to get vaccinated. But back to your first question, when we first started this conversation, I guess the most important thing is here in terms of easing restrictions, we want every single Tasmanian who is eligible for the vaccine to be vaccinated, and that is so important.
Now, you're talking to somebody who's fully vaxxed. I understand the necessity to do it, and I understand the benefit. What I'm worried about is the very mixed messages that are coming from politics all over the country. Quick one here. Those in isolation who've returned from interstate, who have a vaccination appointment booked while they're in isolation and have done their first negative test and not able to get that second vax. We're rushing here, but we're not rushing. Why is that the case?
Well, of course, people that are in isolation, and you're talking about...
I'm talking about return travellers who have come in. They've come from a place that's been designated self-isolated home, which they're doing. As you know, they have to do a COVID test after 3 days. That returns negative. During the time of the 2-week isolation, they have, in some cases, a second vaccine appointment. They're being refused.
Well, again, that's about the risk, and if there's a reason for them being quarantined in the first place and being isolated.
Yes, because they're a return traveller from a hotspot and they've been tested negative,
that's
so
right.
They can assume they're negative, and shouldn't they be able to get continue their vaccine program uninterrupted?
That's the public health advice, and the system we've got would suggest that because they are from a higher risk area, they need to quarantine and isolate for the required time, and that's just the way it is. I know it's inconvenient, but we've managed.
Well, it's potentially,
COVID outbreak well in Tasmania.
Minister, it's potentially compromising the effectiveness of the vaccine, because more often than not, the appointment that's being cancelled when it's rebooked is weeks and weeks later, beyond the regular window for the second shot, particularly. Okay, look, perhaps if you could maybe go away and have a bit of a think about that, because I think it's a bit of an issue if we're trying to get people vaxxed. One final question, if I may, that's just come in from a listener. We're getting reports that the country club in Launceston will be used as the AFL hub for the coming weekend, and that a number of people who've made bookings at the country club have had those bookings subsequently cancelled to facilitate the AFL hub. Can you confirm that?
Look, I'll just have to take that one on notice, Brian, and get back to your listener that's called in there to get the answer to that exact circumstance.
So you don't know whether the country club's being used as a quarantine hub for the AFL?
Well, I've got my understanding is that it could be, yes, but I'll need to get some answers in terms of the direct question that was given to you then.
But you're the health minister, sir. Should not you know?
I'm aware, yes, that the country club, my understanding is, for my information is correct, that it's being used by the AFL, but I'll have to get an answer to you in terms of the direct question that was given to you. I'm
getting reports that people are having their bookings cancelled.
And I'll follow up on those reports, Brian.
Okay, I appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brian. Appreciate it.
Jeremy Rockcliffe, the Deputy Premier and Health Minister. Yes, good morning. Welcome to this brand new one. Apologies for the late news there. I just thought it was important to attempt to try and get some answers out of the Health Minister, Jeremy Rockcliffe. Todd from Howrah, by way of feedback. Jeremy's trying to avoid your questions. Yeah, look, politicians avoiding pretty direct questions is something I'm used to. Ministers not necessarily knowing something about their brief that they absolutely should, in my view, know. That's another thing entirely. Okay, look, there's all sorts of emails coming in from all sorts of people. The AFL bubble, I've basically confirmed, has happened, okay, independently. I look forward to the Minister's response. Those who have been turfed out, and they're Tasmanians, okay, been turfed out of Country Club in Launceston to facilitate the AFL hub, they probably, should they be compensated? I give them one of those travel voucher things, yeah? Maybe the government could do that. Come on, many of these people have had their things booked for weeks and weeks, if not months. There were big weekends organised with the boys. They've taken a weekend off work, told the family that, organise yourselves, we're off. That kind of thing. And they've just been turfed out of their accommodation. Okay. All right. We'll keep working on that one. Thanks for the info, everyone who's dropped me a note about that. And there's more than one person. Okay. Nigel here quickly. Where do you get your patients from? yeah, I understand. Yeah, the show Yes Minister comes to mind. Look, very, very similar emails coming through. But hang on, some breaking news here. God, this is fantastic. Breaking news. Hang on, where's my breaking news sound effect? Here we go. We've got a traffic note from the media unit of the Department of Police, Fire and Emergency Management. This is stunning. It's the first one this morning. Let me read it for you. Lenina motorists are asked to avoid the West Tamar Highway between 10 and 11 this morning while police conduct further analysis at the scene of last Friday's fatal crash. Light vehicles will be able to divert through Rosevears Drive, however large heavy vehicles will not. Police thank motorists for their understanding. It's a very important note if you live in and around Launceston.
The Spoon Man, Brian Carlton on Triple M.
Coming up, we'll have a serious chat with a serious man about parliamentary privilege and how it may be abused. In fact, could have been. Trish in New Norfolk. Good morning. Hi, Trish.
Hi, Brian. How are you?
I'm going okay. How are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. I have a query. Mm-hmm. I was listening to Jeremy Rockcliffe about, if Delta broke out down here, the hospitals will be closed, the vaccination clinic at the hospital will be shut.
When I say the hospital will be closed, what I mean is there won't be general public access to it like there is now. Yeah. But the vaccination clinic will be moved. Now... Well, no, he didn't actually say that. He didn't say that.
But he was looking at the town hall and stuff like that to move them to.
Yeah, potentially. But he was also saying we'd look at see if we can facilitate some way to make that happen inside the hospital without having to move it. So anyway, yep.
Yeah, but if he does move it, and because my injection I can't get until the end of September, and I booked it probably 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago.
Yeah, okay. That's a long wait, isn't it?
Yeah. Now, I can't get it till the end of September, so if he moves the vaccination clinic from the hospital, I can't have mine because of my underlying conditions. My specialist has told me to have it at the hospital in case something happens.
Okay. Yeah, well, you'd imagine then, Trish, that particular exemptions and special measures would be made to allow you to do that. For people like me who just wandered into the hospital and twice and had the 2 jabs and kind of wandered out again, which is the overwhelming majority of people, it's hard to imagine how they'd be able to keep that going, especially at the pace it is now. Which is not bad. If there is a significant outbreak and access to the hospital is restricted, so it's just one of those things they're going to have to work out. I'm sure they will. I'm just not sure whether anybody's given it too much thought just yet, and it'd be a knee-jerk thing. Let's anticipate Delta getting here, facilitate the removal of the thing, so we're not rushing around to do it with the hospital partially shut down. You know what I mean? Like once the Delta hits, it's going to be a you-know-what fight. So let's anticipate it and try and get ahead of the curve, so to speak.
Yeah, they've got to work it out before it hits.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm suggesting.
It's just ridiculous because you look on the mainland and they didn't work it out. They just went bang, bang, bang.
Yeah, you know what? I think there's a sense of false confidence that they're going to be able to keep it out of Tassie in the same way that the New Zealanders had a false sense of confidence that they'd be able to keep it out of Kiwiland. And as you know, it's raging through the joint now, and they're shutting down and trying to work out what sort of strategies they need to adopt to get out of their new COVID emergency. I think it's incredibly arrogant to think that we can keep it out permanently. Trish, I must move. I genuinely appreciate your call. Thank you. Good on you.
All right, thanks, Brian.
Take care. Quick one here from Eric at Glen Debbie. Good morning, Eric. How are you?
Yeah, good morning to you.
And you're on the radio. What can I do for you, sir?
Oh, look, I was just after listening to you talk to the minister, and you gave that comparison regarding the lady that wasn't allowed into the state after being double vaxxed. I came to the conclusion that we really are playing Russian roulette with allowing this AFL 10,000 crowds into the state, bearing in mind, once this Delta version hits, it's going to do a hell of a lot of damage to the state. And I don't mean to be a doom and gloom merchant, but from the footballers getting on the bus to the driver, driving him to the country club, to the concierge, to the fella or the lady that might take the bags to the room, to the waitress, to whoever, are they all double vaxxed? In the state, are they
all the footy players are, and everybody associated with the AFL bubble is, yes,
right,
and regularly tested.
Well, we're 60% in the state vax, so it's everyone at the country club. Is that par? We got to that situation now where to be employed, to be anywhere near these AFL players, of which you'll be looking after feeding, waiting on.
The assurance, Eric, I can completely understand where you're coming from. The thing that makes it not relevant in this instance is that there is no active COVID in the community. You and I would be in heated agreement if there was active COVID here in Tassie, and we were worried about the people in the hub, okay, in the AFL hub, because they've got a couple of weeks to go, as you know, are coming into contact regularly with unvaccinated people. That would potentially be an issue for the AFL. The only thing that allows us to be unvaccinated and dealing with people in vax hubs is the fact that there is no Delta here. Eric, I must go. I genuinely appreciate your call, though. Thank you, sir. When we come back, we'll have a quick chat about parliamentary privilege, and is it being abused here in Tassie? What is it? That's on Triple M 20 after 8. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have a chat with a gentleman I don't normally speak to too much on the radio, not for any particular reason, just we'd probably end up in an argument about pretty much everything. I think we're singing from the same hymn book, though, when it comes to the abuse of parliamentary privilege. I'll have a chat with Greg Barnes, SC, very senior barrister here in Hobart, about exactly that issue. Don't go away. This is one of those chats, inevitably, I think we probably need some more time to do justice, but I just want to get across the issue of abuse of parliamentary privilege, which we may have seen this week in Parliament with the independent member for Clark, Christy Johnston, standing up in Parliament and launching what can only be described as a privileged attack on the now former Labor leader, David O'Byrne, who has been, well, at least in terms of the internal Labor Party investigation, cleared of any specific wrongdoing other than that which he's already apologised for. Embedded in that well, I'm calling it an attack. That's my characterisation. Under parliamentary privilege, there were unsubstantiated allegations of further complaints against David O'Byrne. One of the best legal brains, if not the in the state, is Greg Barnes, SC. I have him on the line, Senior Counsel. Good morning, and congratulations, Greg, on your uptick there.
Oh, that's very kind of you, Brian. Thank you.
Did we have an abuse of privilege this week with Christy Johnston doing what she did?
Well, I think so. For this reason, Brian, there are pretty clear rules around parliamentary privilege, and they say with privilege comes responsibility because, of course, as you know, Brian, you can't be sued for defamation for what you say.
Correct.
I can't think of another example of a more serious breach because what the rules and the convention say is you cannot use it to launch serious personal attacks on individuals, particularly individuals who are fellow MPs. You know, the last time I think this was done, you may recall this, Brian, was when Andrew Peacock called Bob Hawke a crook back in 1984 over the Costigan Royal Commission.
I do, actually.
Yeah, and, you know, you'll remember too that blew up on Peacock because people saw it as a step too far. And I think what Christy Johnson did was a step too far.
Okay, the phrase that's often used to describe parliamentary privilege by people who do what I kind of the sort of work I do is coward's castle. Did we see that?
Yeah, I do. I think so because you know you can't think of you can't think of more serious allegations, but they're very serious allegations. They're unsubstantiated, and this is not the forum for raising these issues. Now she says, "Oh well, I speak for these people." Well, that's great. Take those if those people have complaints, steer them in the right direction, but do not use the privilege that you have and the privileged position you have to launch what was an appalling attack on someone who'd already been under attack earlier in the week. It really looked like a pile-on, and I've got to say I've had an enormous number of people, Brian, and I mean an enormous number of people texting me and calling me and saying that we were right to issue the statement we did with my colleagues because this is not what people expect from their parliamentarians.
Given the observation I made, and it was well and truly outside the legalities and the proprieties of this issue, was simply this: Christy Johnson went to the people and said she'd be using Parliament to pursue their interests, to pursue all the things that need doing in the seat of Clark, from light rail to building enough homes to house everyone, various social services. That was her focus, and to use Parliament the way she has, and really her first opportunity to get up and make a bit of noise, I thought was vaguely inappropriate, and I use the term vaguely advisedly. Appreciate your time this morning, Greg. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Cheers. Greg Barnes. Yes, good morning. Welcome aboard. It's Thursday, the 26th of August. In a few minutes' time, we will have a chat with today's cable car finalist. Yes, Triple M's me, the Spoon Man, wants to give you the cable car. All you need to do, hit the website, triplem.com.au, 25 words or less, what the cable car would mean for Hobart. Not you, but for Hobart. And you can be for it, you can be against it. We've already had against, you're already in there. And you can be completely ambivalent. Maybe you want a theme park somewhere instead. That's okay, that's fine. The creative entries are the ones that'll make it through to the chat on the radio and ultimately through to the final. So be creative, be creative. Today, we will talk to the finalists in just a few minutes. Now, a couple of things. Oh, actually, I want to do this. I have received an email from the Wright family. Hello, Wright family, and best regards to you too. It reads, "Hey, Spoonie, is it possible for you to wish my son, Bailey Wright, a happy 18th birthday today?" Damn straight I can. Happy birthday, Bailey. 18. Man, that's a big one, isn't it? I can almost remember mine. Almost. He works for Hazelbrook, and he's currently at the Sandfly intersection doing some work, civil construction. Yeah, good on you. Out there doing hard day's work. Fantastic. 18th. Bailey Wright, happy birthday from your family and me and the gang here at Triple M. Very cool, man. The Black Crows on Triple M. 21 to 9 now on this Thursday morning. Do hope you're well. In a minute, we'll just speak to our next contestant in Spoonie Man Gives You the Cable Car comp. Quick one, though. Darren, our regular keyboard warrior, I'm grateful, mate. Remember we've been talking about the FluBot scam that's been getting around? If you missed my chat with Delia from the ACCC yesterday, our Scam Watch lady, hit the website, triplem.com.au, or download the Listener app and have a listen. if you've been getting these text messages that come through and they say, oh, you've got a voicemail message, click on this link. It downloads some horrible software, malware, onto your phone. Now, there's a new one, according to Darren. Thank you, mate. I appreciate the heads up. This one comes through as a lost pet. I saw them getting around the internet yesterday as lost dogs. So the one he sent me is a cat is lost near you. Click on the link to view. And then there's a link with the HTTPS thing, lostpetfinders.com.au. Have a guess. It's please don't. They're using other methods now. Clearly the voicemail, which is the way they trick you into clicking on that link. Okay, enough people are awake up to it now, so they're playing on you emotionally. Lost pets they're using now. Good Lord. Thank you, Darren. Thank you, mate. Appreciate it. God, people are revolted. The scammers, they sit around and have meetings about how they can separate you from your hard-earned. They really bother me.
Triple M Spoonman gives you the cable car. We've got 2 tickets to cable cars.
Oh, yeah. This is so cool. Look, I made a promise to you back in the big, cable car debate days, which is still going on, as you know, that I just wanted somebody from Hobart to go on a cable car, and it was almost a throwaway thing, and then I thought about it and went, nah, let's do this. So we had very serious meetings with the Triple M Department of Fun to see what we could come up with. What we came up with was this. Here's the prize. Return flights for 2 people, Hobart to Queenstown in New Zealand when the bubble forms, breaks, bursts, whatever they do these days, I don't know. But when you can fly to New Zealand again, Hobart to Queensland, return flights for 2. 4 nights accommodation in Queenstown, and $1,000 spending money from us here at Triple M. That's the prize. How do you do it? triplem.com.au, 25 words or less. What would the cable car mean for Hobart? Could be bad, could be good, could be indifferent, doesn't matter. The issue is the most creative, interesting, quirky, or attention-grabbing entries are likely to catch the attention of the Department of Fun, and today's is Lyle from 7 Mile Beach. G'day, Lyle. How you going?
I'm very well, thanks, Brian. It's lovely to chat to you at last.
Mate, it's nice of you to enter the comp and be available for our little chat. You live in a very nice part of the world, my friend. Very nice.
Oh, I do. I'm right opposite the golf course.
Oh.
And close to the beach.
I was going to say, it's about a 3-minute walk to the beach from there, isn't it, if that?
It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
We have so many great places around Hobart, one of which is the mountain. Your entry, Lyle, read as follows, and I'll quote here. Kununyi sits proud. Cable car and culture combine to reveal stories untold while views unfold. Working together will educate and amaze. Lovely entry, Lyle. Talk me through it.
Oh, well, I listen to you every morning. I actually drive a school bus now in my job, and on my way to picking up the first group of students, I listen to you, and I've been listening to this cable car debate, and I was just stunned and gobsmacked that the TAC refused to enter into a dialogue with the cable car company because they've made a huge tactical blunder. They could have used that to promote their culture, their history, by having someone talking on a tape in the cable cars to tourists as they're going up the mountain, plaques on the side, and dare I say it, a nice building on top of the mountain where you can walk through with dim lighting and huge big posters and with photos of the views, photos of Aboriginal culture.
Lyle, even more that we've got some amazing interactive technology these days where you could have, and I completely agree with you. You and I are in total agreement on this, and I wish the TAC would engage with the company. The company's very prepared to have the conversations with them. By the way, I chuck that out there as a bit of a carrot to the local Indigenous community. There is potentially a massive win for Indigenous Tasmanians if it goes ahead and the kind of thing you're talking about, Lyle, comes to pass. Can you imagine, and I'll for those who are sort of going, what's he banging on about? Look, if you were at the summit, okay, in the all-new centre they've got there, you can have a meal and a coffee and, sit in a bar and look out the window and just take in the view. There'll be a section of it, there could be a section of it, that would allow you to, again, look at the view in panorama, okay, and click on parts of the window you're looking at, and what you would get, because the window's actually a screen, right?
Yeah.
And what pops up is a description of what you're looking at, how long the local Indigenous mob were living there, what happened to them, what language did they speak, what was their cultural background, what were the unique bits and pieces about that particular area. Now, say, for example, down the Tasman Peninsula or Eagle Hawk Neck, you can see all that from up there. So right around the metropolitan area, we could have this incredible learning experience about Indigenous culture from the summit.
That's right. I just don't believe they didn't think of that. I'm sure the spokesperson for the TAC obviously consulted the whole community, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't understand the reasoning for it, other than the reasons that have been publicly stated by TAC and others. I just think it was a wonderful opportunity to finally link the two communities together in friendship and mutual knowledge and respect, rather than have this Mexican standoff that exists at the moment.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
I'm sick of this minority that get there and they attack.
No, that's
groups,
okay.
you know?
Look, no, Lyle. Basically, everybody is a minority of one. Okay, you're a minority of
Correct.
one. I'm a minority
Correct.
of one. Minorities are fine. Their views can be taken on board. It's the way it was done, I think, that sticks in most people's craw, which is the demand. We will only engage with you, cable car company, if you abandon the project. I think that was a naive and self-defeating decision. Lyle, you are in, my friend. You are one of the 14 finalists. Have you been on a cable car before?
Look, I have. I went on a cable car in New Zealand years ago up to Littleton, Point Littleton. I think it is, Port Littleton. And what sticks in my mind is they had a pictorial views of the Maoris and the history of Port Littleton, and it was amazing.
Yeah. And one of the reasons that people are coming to places like Tasmania is not only to indulge in our physical beauty and meet the people, it's to learn about Indigenous culture. It's a huge tourist attraction, apart from anything else. But the major benefit would be, I think, to the locals, far more so than anyone.
Absolutely.
Okay, Lyle, thank you,
All
mate,
right.
and congratulations for making the finals, and whether you become the winner or not is entirely up to the Department of Fun. But thank you for playing, mate. Really appreciate it.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much, Brian.
Lyle at 7 Mile Beach, good man. And as I advised, do be gentle on the download. We're still waiting to hear back from Jeremy Rockcliffe's office on the situation that seems to be emerging out of Launceston, where people who've often had bookings at Country Club for months have been rather unceremoniously turfed out in the past 24 hours. In other words, advised that their bookings have been cancelled to facilitate the AFL hub. The curious element of my chat with Jeremy Rockcliffe, the health minister, is that he was not aware of that. Find that a little interesting. Okay, on to other matters. Brighton Council. Now, remember, it was a few weeks ago we had a chat with former Mayor Tony Foster after a hugely long career. Monstrous. The elections were announced yesterday, or the tally was counted, and the winner, no, I won't do the drum roll, Lee Gray is the all-new Brighton Mayor as of yesterday. Lee, good morning. Congratulations. How are you going? Hello. Hello, Lee. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I've got you now. I had my fat ear on the mute button.
That happens, doesn't it? I had half a conversation with somebody the other day having done that, and it took them a little while to go, "You there? You there?" I go, Why can't they hear me? The perils of technology. Congratulations on your election as Brighton Mayor yesterday. Have you been sworn in yet? When does that happen? What's the process?
Sworn in yesterday. So I popped out to the council offices, made the declaration and signed the form, and officially became mayor a bit after 12 o'clock yesterday.
You're very much a local. You lived in and around Brighton for, 21 years, council 16 years, if my memory serves me correctly. Have you always wanted to be mayor, Lee?
Well, I grew up in Bridgewater as well. Mum and Dad moved out in the 70s, mid-70s, to the Housing Commission. So had a period from about 5 to 21 where I lived in Bridgewater as well.
Gotcha. So more than familiar with the history of the local issues that are still happening.
Absolutely. I feel I'm really in touch with the local community, having lived there for most of my life.
Big shoes to fill, though, aren't they?
They are. Tony has done a tremendous job for, I think, 28 and a half years as mayor. So I really do have big shoes to fill. It's a challenge, and hopefully something I can live up to the expectation that people have now put on me.
Give me your 1, 2, 3 dot points. First tasks as mayor. What are you going to tackle? What's the plan?
Listen, we're obviously continuing to try and provide the required infrastructure. Brighton is one of the fastest growing municipalities in Tasmania.
Oh yeah.
When you've got a fast growing municipality, you have to keep up with the supply of new infrastructure to make it a nice place to live, work and play.
The housing boom is well and truly on. Obviously, transport issues would be right at the top of that, wouldn't they?
They are. We've always had issues in regards to transport. The role of mayor is to get out there and talk to people who have a little bit more control over those portfolios than we do at council.
So you're going to be badgering the state government, are you, for the necessary funding to do what Brighton needs?
We'll be having some conversations especially about transport, and but we're very financial as a council as well. We run a very tight ship. We spend only what we earn, and we spend that hopefully in the right areas.
Unlike a lot of councils, at least you're starting off in the black, so to speak. Lee, we will no doubt talk as issues pop up over the course of your tenure, and I just wanted to touch base quickly with you, congratulate you, and sort of just introduce me and you and to everyone, and we'll when stuff happens in Brighton that we need to talk about, you'll be on speed dial. Appreciate it this morning. Thank you and congratulations.
Perfect. And look forward to talking to you in the future, Brian.
Good on you. Take care. Thank you.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
That's Smash Mouth on Triple M, couple to 9. Thanks for your company today. Miles on the radio after 9 o'clock. He's just informed me that it is Dog Day. Is it National Dog Day today? Okay. Hit the internet for the chat with Jeremy Rockcliffe, which is kind of enlightening in, well, not ways that you'd normally associate with the term enlightening. But anyway, have a listen to it, triplem.com.au or the Listener app. Again, thanks for your company. Good to welcome our new team member aboard too. Bryce Parker is the new producer of this show, and it's good to have him here. And thank you, mate. Good job today. First solo run today as producer. Right, Free Range Friday tomorrow with one exception. I will be talking to the Premier, Peter Gutwin, post-budget, which is later today. Word is, deficit's not quite as big as we were expecting. Take it easy. I'll catch you tomorrow. Cheers.
Live from Hobart, 6 a.m. weekdays, Brian Carlton, the Spoon Man on 107.3 Triple M.